This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
It was a Super Bowl like no other before or since. Super Bowl V was the first modern-era National Football League NFL championship game between the first American Football Conference AFC champion Baltimore Colts and the first National Football Conference NFC champion Dallas Cowboys to decide the NFL champion for the 1970 season. Previously, for the last 4 seasons, the Super Bowl was dubbed as the AFL-NFL World Championship due to the American football having 2 different pro leagues, the American Football League, AFL, and the National Football League, NFL. Now, in that one vintage season of 1970, the 2 separate leagues merged into one, and it was the pioneering year for pro football as we know it today. In addition to this new league, this would be the first Super Bowl game played on artificial turf, which was on first-generation polyturf. The game was played on January 17, 1971, at the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida. Super Bowl V is sometimes called the Blunder Bowl or Stupor Bowl because it was filled with poor play, a missed extra point attempt after a touchdown, penalties, turnovers, and officiating miscues. The 2 opposing teams, Dallas and Baltimore, combined for a Super Bowl record 11 turnovers, with 5 coming in the fourth quarter. The Colts' 7 turnovers remain the most committed by a Super Bowl champion. The Cowboys also set a Super Bowl record with 10 penalties, costing them 133 yards. At the time, in 1970, the creation of this new league from the 2 warring leagues brought out record attendance at all the games played during the inaugural season. Fans did not have to choose which league was their favorite. Pro football was now united due to the merger agreement between the AFL and NFL, which was forged 4 years before in 1966, whereby both leagues agreed to form one new league in 1970. The 1970 pro football season featured all of the 26 teams that comprised both AFL and NFL teams. The 2 leagues were now divided into 2 conferences. The National Football League will be placed into the National Football Conference. The American Football League will be placed in the American Football Conference, with 13 teams in each conference. The American Football League's name would be abandoned, as both leagues agreed to be part of the longer-running National Football League brand name. Because the AFL only had 10 teams going into the merger, while the NFL had 16 teams in the merger, it was agreed that 3 teams from the NFL would join the new AFC conference to even up both conferences. These teams that traded conferences were the Baltimore Colts, the Cleveland Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Colts were a powerhouse in the NFL for years and represented the older league in Super Bowl III. Now, 2 years later, they represented the new AFC for Super Bowl V. If there ever was an identity crisis for a team in the history of pro football, the 1970 Baltimore Colts was that team. Meanwhile, the Dallas Cowboys were making their first Super Bowl appearance from many years of disappointing losses after having many good seasons. The new 26-team league began to use an 8-team playoff format, 4 from each conference. That included the 3 division winners and a wild card team, the second-place team in each conference with the best record in any one of the 3 divisions. In knockout rounds played after the season was over, in a quest to get to the championship, or now known as the Super Bowl. Beginning with this Super Bowl and continuing to the present day, the Super Bowl has served as the NFL's league championship game, with the winner of the AFC championship game and the winner of the NFC championship game facing off after 2, then later 3 rounds of divisional and conference series comprising of the new NFL playoff system. Things on the football fields were changing as well. The year 1970 saw 7 teams play their home games on artificial turf. This was 5 more than just 2 teams who had artificial turf back in 1969. Now, artificial turf was present in Cincinnati, Dallas, Miami, Pittsburgh, and St. Louis, in addition to the 2 teams who had artificial turf in 1969, which were Houston in the AFL and Philadelphia in the NFL. Also, pro football was growing by leaps and bounds, besides the merger of the 2 leagues. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh opened new stadiums, Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati and Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh. Due to record-breaking ticket sales in the last few years, there was a need for more stadium capacity to hold the expanding fan base than there had been before. With the expansion of stadiums, pro football followed Major League Baseball in embracing artificial turf playing fields.